breakout session, but in order to keep things going this afternoon, we have 2 sessions left. We're going to start this short session, which is a reflections session. So it's a cross-section of attendees sharing their key insights and takeaways from the conference so far, and the objective is to hear everyone's perspectives in the hope of inspiring the next steps for bridging generations in active recreation and sport. So can you please, they're already on stage, but welcome on the stage. We have Sarah Murray, CE from Recreation Aotearoa, and of course last night's CK Doig Leadership Award winner, who is joining us. We've got Jacob Driver, graduate at Sport NZ. Manu Albert, Injury Prevention Program Manager at New Zealand Rugby. Fiona McDonald, Chief Executive, Education Outdoors New Zealand. And rounding us out, Kathy Dido, the Board Chair at Sports Otago. Okay, I've got 3 questions for our panel, and once I throw the first one, our panellists are just going to do their very best with their extensive notes to get the answers out within the next 10 or 15 minutes, so good luck to all of you. Right, what's one key idea or insight from the conference that really landed with you, and why?
Kia ora, koutou. So I looked at it through an educational lens, of course, and the concept that our classrooms and schools are intergenerational, and how do we look at addressing and making room for conversations around those different expectations and perspectives, and even what success looks like in those classrooms, building space for those differences and the intergenerational differences to be addressed both ways, and increasing that understanding. I also really liked the panel yesterday and thought about how that related to curriculum design, which we're doing right at the moment, and where the youth voices are in that design process. We stay in education, we're student-centred, but I'm not always sure that we listen to the students that we put at the centre. So that was interesting for me. And just finally, the work that Ella and Fran are doing on peer crowds. And you know, we talked a lot about the differences between generations, but that was more about the differences within generations and how we can use that work to think about the peer crowds that aren't well represented in the outdoors, and what we can do to make that space more attractive and inclusive for those peer crowds.
Okay.
Tēnā tātou e te whānau. Key insight for me was to be the leader who offers the most hope. So being at New Zealand Rugby, we have an obligation and a responsibility to actively involve our youth in decisions that affect them and truly listen. Our youth speakers yesterday reminded me that humility doesn't need shrinking who I am, but their boldness inspired me to lead with more visibility and purpose, like bring that main character energy. So not out of ego, but to model courage and hope for others. So that was a key insight for me. Kia ora.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Have really enjoyed the past couple of days. It's been really awesome to come along as a graduate, connect with all of you and hear from some incredible speakers, really. There are a few key themes that stuck out for me, but one of them, a real simple one, is no one knows our tamariki and rangatahi like they do as participants. No one knows their wants and needs better than they do, really. You know, the world we live in today is constantly changing, it's constantly evolving at an exponential rate, and with that, so is the wants and needs of our tamariki and rangatahi constantly changing, and no one in this room or in our sector has been at the age of a tamariki or rangatahi at this point in time. So the world we live in today is completely different than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and so on, when we were all young. And we all aspire to deliver quality physical activity, opportunities and experiences. That's what we all strive to do. And I was sort of reflecting over the past couple of days about what is quality physical activity, opportunity, experience for our tamariki and rangatahi. And I guess I've sort of reflected over the past couple of days that quality physical activity, opportunities and experiences are ones that meet the wants and the needs of our tamariki and rangatahi. So no one knows really what that is better than the tamariki and rangatahi themselves. So I guess to loop that back, one takeaway I've taken over the past couple of days is just to hear from our tamariki and rangatahi so we can help deliver better outcomes for them. Kia ora.
Bye.
Kia ora koutou. A lot of sessions have highlighted the intergenerational gap and the differences and the distance between us. And I thought that was really useful information to understand our natural differences, but it did make me want to find out where is our common ground. Some of you might be familiar with the Pacifica concept of va, or the space between. And in va, it's not an empty space, it's not a void, it is a relational space that holds things together, that defines relationships. It's shaped by the individuals in it and our relationship to the environment and our tipuna. And it's an alive place, and it's a place where magic can happen. And I reckon that's really the space where we should be, that we should identify where's that shared space and step into it. What do we have in common? That's what I was thinking about as I listened to a lot of the sessions. And what I heard over and over again about what that common ground is, because there is a lot of it, it's about relationship, it's about authenticity, human connection, really wanting to make a difference. Those are the ties that bind. And that was really encouraging for me, but it was also a challenge, because when you step into a shared space from wherever you come from, you have to let go. You have to let go of your own worldview and your own perspective in order to have an open mind and embrace the shared space, much less the space that other people are coming from. Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou. Probably a key insight for me over the last couple of days is that it's not about sport. It's not even about recreation. For a conference full of sport and recreation people, we actually haven't talked about sport a lot, and that's really encouraging. I think it really speaks to the maturity of our sector and the deep, I guess, commitment and focus that people have got on what matters. Our speakers have talked about connection, belonging, whānau, community. Rachel Laley, got it.
There you go.
I was going to call her Queen Rachel. I think she probably deserves that. I just thought she was wonderful. She talked about basketball as a Trojan horse for well-being, and I think, that resonated with me, and I'm sure it resonated with a lot of people in the room. Actually, we are in the business of creating spaces for well-being, helping people to live better lives. The way in which we do that is through sport and recreation, but actually that's not our why. Our why is all about community, movement, connection, and creating well-being for people.
Sarah, hold that mic, because the second question is around, there's been a lot of kōrero over the last couple of days, but now it's kind of how do you put that into action? So how do you see what's been discussed over the last couple of days influencing your own work or the sector more broadly?
Great question, and really important one, because actually we're here to make change, not just to talk about it. I think, one of the things that just fills my cup coming to events like this is hearing from the people out there doing the things on the ground. Seeing the presentations from the award finalists and winners this morning was just incredible. There was moments there where really it was a tear to the eye moment, and I think that has really inspired me to hold myself to account and hold my team to account around the difference we're making on the ground. We don't just want to talk about things. I want us to be out there changing things in a positive way for people. So I'm really grateful to all those people for sharing their stories, for being out there in their communities and doing that amazing work, and for inspiring others to push themselves a little bit harder and focus a little bit deeper on the difference that they're going to make.
Beautiful. Kathy?
Well, we heard today from Mokopuna that they need to survive before they can thrive, and that really should affirm any of our organizations who are working with an equity lens. And in our RST, we're looking a lot about how do we reduce barriers for participation. So that's certainly an encouragement for us to keep that focus. And the other piece for me was around engagement in a broader sense, and I want to go back and discuss with our board and management team how to get better at engaging with our mokopuna, but not for engagement's sake, but for impact's sake, so that we keep focused on the outcomes that we're striving for in serving our community.
I've chosen to sort of look at it from a broader perspective in terms of the wider sector. There was a quote that Mark McCrindle sort of finished off with in his presentation that I'd like to read out again, that sort of stuck with me at that point, and as the past couple of days have gone on, I've sort of gone back to that and thinking about how we can take the learnings from the past 2 days into the sector and the workforce. So Mark put up a quote that said, "The strength of an organisation comes from its stories and traditions, but the future of an organisation rests in its relevance and innovation." And that made me think, we are the organisations we are today because of the amazing mahi we have done and we continue to do. But we can't be oblivious to the fact that change is happening. New generations are coming through with different wants and needs, and we can't continue to deliver the same thing in a changing environment and expect the same results.
Nice, Jacob.
Working in injury prevention, I see the need for behaviour change and culture shift, especially in rugby that's steeped in traditions. We need to stay relevant, we must evolve, learn from the great work of what other sports are doing, other communities, so that we can drive innovation and progress to the future, as JD was alluding to. So I love the words of Queen Rachel, invincibly optimistic, relentlessly ambitious.
From an educational perspective, I took some key messages around that learning outside shouldn't just be nice to have squeezed in when everything else is done. 3 hours of reading, writing and maths in primary school. Te Taiao isn't something that is just a setting. It's a teacher, it's a sense of identity, a sense of place, a critical place to build relationships, those teacher-student relationships that are absolutely key. Students can't learn unless they feel safe and have a sense of belonging. And Te Taiao and being outdoors, being active is a key space for that to happen. So how do we all activate that?
Hold the mic, thanks Fiona, because our last question is around the challenges and opportunities that you think that we should collectively focus on as we go forward.
So I guess that was probably my challenge. The opportunity I see is we're in the midst of curriculum development. We've got a new phys ed and health curriculum on its way, and we should all be thinking about what that looks like when it comes out at the end of the year and what opportunities it provides for our kids and the kids that are joining our organisations or hopefully being inspired to join your organisations. Are they having the opportunity within that curriculum to get outside, get involved and have a sense of belonging with the natural world?
My thoughts are Gen Alpha is coming, so embrace them. Gen Z is here, embrace them, but do it in an intentional way. So that we don't assume that we have all of the answers. They are the experts in their own experiences. So my challenge to the wider sector is that we are authentic, we're intentional, and we become the organisations that offer the most hope.
My challenge is that, we do our mahi for our tamariki and rangatahi, so it's important that we put young people at the centre of what we do. If we're going to do it for them, we need them and their voices to inform and shape our mahi, the decisions we make. We need to embrace intergenerational collaboration for a better future, bring them along the journey with us so we can provide better outcomes and a better future for the new generations coming through.
My opportunity is about making mokopuna decisions. That year that someone mentioned, about 2100, our Gen Alphas and Betas are going to be alive then, and some of us in the room may not be. And it made me think that we're not actually very good at long-term planning in general. Central government, local government, the 4-year funding cycle in this sector. So what can we do to look up and to look out and then sort of backcast and think about what we might need to do in the short term? Realizing that it is a balance, because I've also, in talking to some people over the couple of days and getting their thoughts, people were saying, well, we're on a burning platform in our own sustainability, in our sport organization. So there is a short-term need in terms of the sector to think about, well, what can we be doing around our finance and funding and sustainability so we can continue to serve our communities. And I reckon we should be turning to our young people to help us figure that out.
This is a room full of powerful people. If you've made it into this room, then you are in a position of influence and in a position to impact. And my challenge to us collectively is, how do we really use that platform that we've got? We've heard a lot about different generations over the last couple of days, but I think at a more fundamental level, we've really talked about inclusion. And I think, I was reflecting on the fact that there's some amazing people in this room doing some really wonderful work that is including people in our communities who have for a long time missed out, and we should celebrate that, and we have been celebrating that. But my challenge is, how do we bring those people into this room? Because this room, as I look out now, doesn't reflect the people that we saw up on the screen as we celebrated the work that's happening out in there in the sector. So how do we use the platform we've got? How do we use the privileged positions that we're in to both make a difference in our communities and in our organisations, but also to create space for other people, so that one day this room reflects the beautiful, messy diversity of New Zealand.
Thank you, wonderful people, for putting yourselves out there and sharing your own insights to the collective that is here, that is left here this afternoon. And I also want to say thank you for your wonderful timing as well. We managed to get through that in the 15 minutes that was allocated. Can you please put your hands together for Fiona, Manu, Jacob, Kathy and Sarah. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.